All right, looks like we're live. The internet's been touchy here, so this is our last Zoom meeting, hopefully. So we'll be back in person next month, but I will call to order the June 21st Ravenna City Council Committee of the Whole meeting for at 7:02 p.m. So the first item on the agenda is approval of Committee of the Whole meeting minutes of May 24th. Were there any additions, corrections to those minutes? Hearing none, do we have a motion to accept as submitted?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thanks. Number 2 on the agenda is the gas aggregation program, and I believe Tom Bellis just joined us, but Kay, if you want me, I can throw it to you first.
Yeah, Tom's just here to explain further in depth the upcoming new price for the gas aggregation. We have to have something in place by August 1st is the deadline. I know on June 7th, an ordinance was passed at the $2.99 per MCF, but that has since changed. According to Tom, it's up to $3.09. So I'll just let Tom take it from here. If you want to explain in a little bit further, Tom, so everybody kind of has a better grip on how this works.
Yes, Kay, thank you. Appreciate the time. Yeah, the market has gone up a little bit. There's just a little bit of pressure on the market, and it's just going up a little bit. It's not all that different than last year. So we had $2.79 for last year's price. With inflation and everything, things seems like everything's going up just a little bit. So we do have a price request in at $3.09. It has not yet set. So the market right now is about $3.15 to $3.18. And if it hits that limit order, we can go ahead and strike that price at the $3.09, and that's for 24 months. Otherwise, we'll get market price at the next meeting, the meeting in July. Okay, do you remember what day that was we were talking about? Maybe the 17th or 19th?
Yeah, we had discussed with Chelsea, if you, on the morning of July 19th, Tom, if you could give us, the price at that time. And then we thought we would present that to council at a special meeting after the Committee of the Whole, and then sign on July 20th to meet the August 1st deadline.
Right. And that's only in case the $3.09 doesn't strike between now and then. It's just the gas market moves quickly, so it's hard to set a price for, suppliers only going to hold it for a day. So we want to be ready to accept, a really good price, which is $3.09. I think is a good price. And then so we're very close. 7 to 9 cents away, so that could happen tomorrow or a few days even. So
Yeah, I was looking just a
first case scenario.
Quick question, Tom. I was looking at some of our other communities in the city of, or the county of Portage, and just can you explain how Streetsboro is that going to affect other communities around us? Even though, like I was reading October of 2021 this year, I believe. Streetsboro is supposed to actually decrease to 278, but they agreed on that last year. So is that
that was quite a while ago. It may have even been 2 years ago. It was quite a while we did that. It was the same technique. Set a limit order, a price request at a certain price, and we happened to catch it. The gas market dropped real low last spring when everything dropped, all commodities and price of everything really dropped a lot last spring, and that's when it struck. So we didn't have one in place. Their timing's a little different, but after that, they're subject to the same market. that everybody else is in. So yeah, that they happen to have it in right at the beginning of the pandemic. So that was the case there. Prices have really gone up since. So, and not significantly, there are some. So we're still fairly close to the current price, 297, I believe. Yeah, that was rare. Most are higher. You mentioned Portage County. I think they're 342 or quite a bit higher.
And I just asked because I saw a couple communities, Aurora, I think Talmadge, they're expiring in November, I think, so that they were going to take it, be in the same boat as us, pretty much.
Yeah, Talmadge was at 309, so they were a little higher now, and they're in the same thing as trying to catch a little bit dip in the market and catch that strike. So yeah, Talmadge is currently higher, looking at the same market. All right.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions?
I have a question. Why is this not on target for a vote at the July meeting, regular meeting? What's the reason we're having a special meeting a couple of weeks later?
Maybe the thought would be if we're closer to the August 1st date, maybe we can come in with maybe hit a better price. Are you thinking that, Tom?
Yeah. The more time we get, the more chance we'll get to strike the 309, and that just gives us more time to do it. So just strike as close as we can, because we don't need pricing till the end of July.
What? Okay, this is not an area I'm very smart about. Why is it better to wait? I mean, you're assuming the
Gives
price
us
is
an
going to go
opportunity.
down?
Yeah, it gives us the market to come back. It went up almost every day for about 2 months now. So it seems like it's softening and coming back.
So
it really
it's
trades like a roller coaster. And I think we're just on the top thing down. So
we're hedging our bets that it'll have a more favorable price closer to the expiration of our current contract.
yeah, I think so.
All right.
Do you think that if we keep seeing these heat increases, do you think that price could go up? That there's a chance that it could go up as we're using more? I was on I think it was what is it? .gov.
EIA,
Yeah, EIA. Thank you. Trying to decipher, like Rob, some of those things on there, and they kept referencing heat as being the culprit for the rising price. Do you think if we have an increase, is there a chance that it could just keep going up?
A lot of the speculators trade months in advance. So I think that's what we saw, and now they're looking into the fall already. This market really trades 3 months looking forward. So a lot of that speculation, which is what I thought it was, is I think coming out.
Yeah, and I appreciate you filling in the gap, because I think the more conversation that we're going to have on this, the more we can fill everybody in, so that the next round, maybe we can get ahead of it. So I do appreciate it, Tom, and I think I may reach out to you after just to learn a little bit more about this.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Does anybody else have any questions for Tom on this? Well, this was just here for discussion, so we will bring it up end of July, mid-July, for a special meeting. So appreciate you joining us, Tom.
Thank you. Appreciate working with the city.
Thank you, Tom.
Thanks.
All right, moving on to number 3 then. We have an ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into contracts for Hillcrest, Zeta, and Spruce Waterline Project. This is utilities. Mr. Moskin or Bob, if you want to take it.
Yes,
This is our, go ahead, Paul.
okay. This is to replace the entire water lines on Zeta and Hillcrest and a portion of Spruce, and including every hydrant in those areas as well. They're a little bit overdue, but it's going to make a drastic difference. And the good thing is there is a for that's going to take care of the majority of that. The grant is almost 237,000, and that will make a big difference. But a big reason, materials for everything have just skyrocketed. And one reason to get this passed and okayed quickly is hopefully the contractor will be able to get the materials needed before any more price increases, and that will be a big difference.
Anything you'd like to add, Bob?
No, that says, Paul said it well.
All right, and as long as council approves it, then we have this on the special right after this meeting. So is there any questions for Bob at this point? What is the pleasure of the committee?
Ordinance.
Ordinance.
Right, number 4 is an ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract with Quality IP. We have Gary tonight again, but this is IT or information systems. So Christina.
Yes, we've been discussing this the last couple meetings. This is to continue our IT services. Administration took a look at this and determined that they wanted to try to continue with Quality IP if possible, that they were okay with the services they were providing. They were happy with the services they were providing. So this is what we have to look at, is the quote for Quality IP. Gary, did you have anything that you wanted to add since our last conversation, or any questions that have been asked of you?
I hadn't intended, I was just here in case there were questions tonight. I didn't
Good.
have anything to add beyond
Perfect.
Steve's comments.
Thank you for being here.
You're welcome.
So you know my position on this, and I'm not going to belabor what we discussed last week. But now on the table is a proposal from Quality IP, which was purported to be $650 more a month than the current contract. When I looked at the current contract, and by the way, I asked for this information, but I had to get it myself. And I look at the current one, it's not, I don't see a $650 difference. I see a $1,200 difference, pretty much double what they said it would be. And I guess what my question is, what am I seeing wrong? Why are the numbers not adding up for me? And I know the proposal is different. It's got different components than the one we have in place right now. But I don't understand how we're told one thing and then delivered something twice as high as they said the increase is. So I'm just asking a question.
So the proposal that I think council received was from Chelsea on an email on June 10th, and that was from Ryan. The current cost we're paying right now is $10,015 per month. The current cost that he's proposing in the proposal is $10,665.
Well,
Now I did talk.
I just have to interrupt you because the contract I see from last year is $9,677.
Yeah.
Where did you get the 10,000?
That's what we're paying currently, and that some of that was, most of that increase was when we added the email. What do you call it? Not certification, the email.
Security.
We added the encryption stuff.
And then that council actually asked for that, so we did add that, and that was $2 per user per thing per. So that's added to get to that, and that's still included in this new quote too. So we're getting anything that we did add during the year like that. And so that's what we're currently paying. It's $10,015. His proposal is $10,665. That's where he gets the $650. Does that answer your question?
I guess, but I wish when somebody says we're increasing at a certain amount that they'd include those other considerations, because all I have to go on is what we had before. So yeah, okay, I guess I understand that. I find their quotes very, very hard to decipher. And I see a lot of discounts in this one that weren't included in the previous one. You know my position anyway. I'm going to vote against this because I thought council should go out and do a competitive process. But I do appreciate that explains why it's not what they said at the meeting, or it's not. See, the question at the meeting last time was, how does this contract compare to previous ones? And the fact that we've added on to it during the year should have been part of the calculus. But I'll take your word that it all adds up to $650. But I wanted to bring that up because, you know, it's hard to keep track of all this stuff. And we are adding from last year a total of, a difference between 116,000 and now 130,000, which just adds to the argument I made last time, and I'm not going to belabor it, that our costs are skyrocketing.
I think,
That
Brian,
is true. And we are, you know, we're adding more services. And if we choose to do the additional security, it's going to cost more too. And we haven't chosen to do that yet, but you're right. I mean, it does keep increasing. And as we add more workstations on, more security, the cost will go up. So that's something we always got to consider when we're adding these new services on too. I mean, it's kind of cost benefit, you know, weighing.
Brian, correct me if I'm wrong, the on-site IT services were not included in the last contract, correct? That wasn't actually identified in the last contract?
No, it was not.
That was something that was added as well.
Yeah, so the
Well,
add-on.
they explained that. They explained.
Okay, I just wanted to make
that and
sure, yeah.
Then the phone system were added services. There was no
Exactly.
mention about the security or any of that other stuff. And I guess
Yeah,
my
Rob-
question at that point would be, what, you know, okay, if they're going to bundle it, that's one thing, but when we voted on it last for that security stuff, I don't know how we end up bundling them in. That needs to be explained, because all I'm doing is comparing contracts to contracts, and I'm not seeing what we were told. But I get your explanation, and I'll accept it, even though I don't have all those other documents in front of me, because I guess they would then add up.
Yeah, I guess that's a good point. Like when we do add on a service, if council chooses to add on, like if we do that email thing again, and we do add something like that on, maybe we should get an all new proposal that not only just gives the cost for that one item, but then gives a total new cost so that you can see that. So then when we can compare these things. But yeah, Rob and Christine, you're right. I mean, it includes the 650 includes the phone and all that, and it also includes keeping someone on site. So those are the two items that were for the add-on.
Yeah, I think more information with these larger contracts is always better.
Yeah.
But I think we've, like Rob has said, kind of belabored this. We know what Quality IP has done. So if there's no other questions or comments, want to ask, what's the pleasure of the committee?
Ordinance.
I don't know what the procedural thing is.
We could do a roll call if you'd like, but
Well, I guess I don't know what to say. I guess ordinance or what? Nothing?
no ordinance.
Table? I don't know. But I guess as long as you have 4 votes, 5 votes, I don't know what the number is.
Yeah, it looks like we have everybody. Paul, were you in favor of an ordinance?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, that clarifies. So everyone without Matt being present, looks like it's unanimous except for Rob and Matt, since he's not here. So we will move that on to the regular meeting. Moving on to number 5 on the agenda, which is an ordinance amending ordinance 2016-88 to expand the CRA. This is Community and Economic Development. Ms. Wood.
Yes, we've talked about this many times. This is the this will be amended to create the title CRA 1, and it will encompass the Sycamore Spruce Street property for the proposed economic development project that's coming.
Any questions on this item? And this is the other item that is on the agenda, I believe, for the next meeting. Yeah. But if there's no other questions, what is the pleasure of the committee?
Ordinance.
Ordinance.
All right. Number 6 on the agenda is an ordinance creating a new fund, number 202, for funds received from the American Rescue Plan Act. This is the finance director, Mr. Huff.
Okay, yeah. So I did send out an email. Well, actually, I think it came from Chelsea, but the Auditor of State's office, they're requiring a separate fund for these ARPA funds. We already did this for the CARES Act last year, and they're requiring the same thing, but it cannot be in that CARES fund. So we do have to create a new one. We have not yet received any funds for this. We're expected to receive a little over 1.1 million this year and 1.1 million next year. So this is just to create the fund for it.
Okay. Any questions for Brian? What is the pleasure of the committee?
Ordinance.
Ordinance.
All right, number 7 on the agenda is an ordinance to approve the 2022 tax budget. Brian, any highlights you'd like to go over?
Yeah, so June 8th, I met with the mayor, Assistant Finance Director Tammy, and Council Rep Cheryl, Tim, and Andrew. Yeah, we discussed the big thing was income taxes and how they were kind of trending, going up and down, because that really affects all of our funds in our budget. Right now, you know, through May, we were 3.7% up from last year, which is you know, positive. At least it's trending up. And then looking at June so far, it's trending up pretty majorly. So that could even be better. But for right now, we're at least up 3.7%. So like I said, it affects the general fund, the street fund, parks fund, the capital fund, and the water fund. They all receive a portion of that. So so far, so good on that. We did remove the spring cleanup. If you look at this year's budget, it's in funds 101, 106. I'm not gonna get page numbers because people probably didn't, well, I have them here, but I don't think people printed those out. So it's 101, 106, there's a spring cleanup, and 685.685. But we did have them in 2021, but not 22. All the numbers that are in this tax budget are from the department heads. So whether it be police chief, fire chief, you know, Chuck Dowdy and his crew, those are all from them. We didn't deny anything. Everything capital wise they needed is reflected in here. We did add for some budget for the part-time dispatchers. So that'll be in the 22 budget. And then we did add for the fire marshal, although we know until council approves it, that's not going to go forward, but we did at least want to have the funding in there to show it. Also in there, I put in the 202 fund, which is what you guys are looking at tonight and what we approve next month. That's for the ARPA money. And then just a few other little miscellaneous changes. We looked at a lot of the lines. The number of expenditure lines is pretty significant. I'm trying to simplify it some. It's going to be a long process. It's just grown over the years. But like some of the stuff like rug maintenance, pest control, some of these $100, $200 items that are like a one expense thing every year. I try to get with the department heads and encourage them to eliminate some of those. So you will see a difference, like especially like in building maintenance lines. I know they'll be a little higher this year. So when you're looking at those, it's because we eliminated some of these, I don't want to call them dumb, but silly little items that just don't need to be reflected individually like that. So that's one change you guys will see in there. I haven't heard any other questions, so I'll just kind of leave it at that, I guess.
Yeah, and I appreciate you going over the budget with us, Brian, because I had a bunch of questions. But the one question I have for you right now, was there any increase in that fire hydrants budget that we discussed?
No, I did not put anything in there yet. I did check with Chuck and Mike Reynolds both on that because it affected both their departments, and they felt like it had enough in there as it was, and then we were going to move money from another line, and they wanted to leave it alone. So
okay,
I did double check with them. But.
All right. Was there any other questions related to the budget that council had?
I had a question, but I did want to thank Brian because, you know, being on council for a few years, it's refreshing to see a budget presented in a way that's easy to decipher. So I really appreciate that.
Thank you.
In past years, all we got was a PDF. When I first started, they handed us a binder.
Oh, a hunk of paper.
Yeah. It wasn't very useful. Well, I mean, it was useful, but couldn't really do much with it. But I did have a question. And I think this was in the paper, and you were, I believe, quoted in regards to income tax collection with people working from home. You know, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think your comment was our community was more likely to have to stay or go to work during the pandemic. But I do think there was some. I mean, there's people who worked in county offices in town.
I did point out the administration building in the school
Right.
to the reporter. I'm not sure what got if that got reflected in there, but
Yeah, I don't remember seeing that in there, but it sounded to me like they balanced it out. Like Kent is really worried, right? Because they have the.
absolutely, yeah. Well, just being
But we're
Kent State
not.
University, yeah, Kent State University, the bill is kind of unclear right now. So the House and the Senate are kind of contradicting each other on it. Either way, it depends on if they go back to 2020 or if they're going to start with 21. If they go back to 20, so a community like Kent will be absolutely destroyed because Kent State University worked almost exclusively from home that year. Well, I think you worked there, right? I mean,
I do.
yeah, so
Yeah,
you would know, I mean,
Yeah, I agree 100%.
and
So-
the same thing here with the county. If the Senate and House end up reconciling it and including 2020, which they haven't decided yet, Portage County will be a pretty significant effect. If they go back to 21, it should be a pretty minimal effect for us. And so I tried to point that out to the reporter. I'm not sure if it got reflected like that or not, but
Yeah, I don't recall that being. I didn't. Yeah, I just remembered it seemed like you were saying that Ravenna would be less impacted than someone like that, which I agree with. But I do think we
Yeah.
will, if it goes back that far, be impacted. And so hopefully, it looks like we've got a pretty healthy, fund balance to counteract that. But
We do.
I guess we'll just have to keep our ears open to see how the Columbus handles it.
And keep in mind, sometimes with this too, if they do go back to even 2020, there will be some positives for it too. So say you have people working at Kent State, well, like yourself even, like, okay, so you work there. If you choose to ask for a refund, which it'll be your choice, it sounds like. But if you did choose to do that.
I mean, I live here though, I have to pay.
Right, so you would get a refund from Kent, but then you would have to pay Ravenna.
Right, but I believe Ravenna's taxes are at least the same, if not higher than Kent.
Right.
So
if you reflected a refund, it wouldn't help you financially, but what it would do is you would get a refund from Kent. It would cost Kent the money, but then Ravenna would benefit from it because you would have to pay Ravenna. You can't just keep it, you know what I mean? So that's how that would work and something like that. There wouldn't be a lot of incentive for you because it's going to be a wash for you. It'd be mostly the people who lived in the townships.
Right. People
that aren't in a taxing area, and they would be mainly the ones requesting the refunds.
And to your point, Brian, I had a brief conversation with the mayor before he left about this. So it was kind of a wait and see what the Senate does, and when they bring it back to the House, what's actually in there. Yeah, something definitely on the radar, though.
Yeah, great question, though. Yeah.
Is there any other questions with the budget?
Nope.
And if not, what is the pleasure of the committee?
Ordinance.
All right, and the last item on the agenda is a discussion, maybe action in regards to citywide recycling. So most of you I've spoken with about this, and overwhelmingly talking to council, most of us are in favor of going out for RFP to see what else we might be able to bring in. So I talked to Kay and made her aware, and just wanted to talk through it with council. I don't want to belabor any of the points because I think we've talked quite a bit about this. I think the point right now to make is that we're trying to be fiscally responsible and get the best price for our residents that we can while providing this service moving forward. So, and I tried to call you, Tim, because in the back of my mind, it's talking what you mentioned at our past meeting, getting everybody on one day. Or a couple days so that you could have trash coming through. So a couple points that I want to make about this, especially comparing to Streetsboro, when you look at what they're doing, or even Kent. If we go out for RFP and to be determined on the next move, I think it's just requesting Kay at this point to go out for RFP, see what the prices are, and then we can come back and have a discussion. But I think when we're going out, there's some things that we should be aware of and residents should be aware of, is that a longer contract will probably get a better price. And Streetsboro's, I believe, was 5 years. One hauler to do both trash and recycling is going to be, again, get us a better price with no opt-out. And that has been made clear, not only by the county for recycling, but just looking at what other communities are doing. That doesn't seem to be an option. We can request it and see if we get anything back, but I don't think we will. And then the third piece, I think the most important, is the price is going to go up no matter what is decided. Whether we stick with the county, could be anywhere from $8 to $12 per month, I think is what we're seeing. And that increase we've talked about, we knew it was coming from the county. And again, I still feel uncomfortable that next year we won't be having the same conversation should we agree to this contract with the county. So I'm nervous that, is the program going to be around? And the fact that Streetsboro is going away with it, with a relatively similar population, I think it's just something to keep an eye on. So I wanted to at least explain that a little bit. Again, I've talked with most of council. The overwhelmingly by popular opinion is to go out for RFP. So that's where we stand. But if there's anything new or an opinion that wants to be stated, I'll open the floor for discussion.
Well, I'll just state that I'm not sure what you said, that whatever option we go, it's going to go up. If we aggregated the garbage collection, trash collection, and recycling, and if we got a deal like Streetsboro, I think residents would pay less than they're currently paying now, even before the Portage County increase. So I want to make sure that the reason I'm in favor of looking at this is reducing the overall cost for residents.
Thank you. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. And I've talked to a lot of residents about this issue. Some are paying $30 a month just for trash. We pay yearly to one place, and that's roughly $20 a month when you break it down. So that's in addition to your recycling. So this would, to your point, Rob, bring everything under one umbrella. You would pay one price for both services. But again, no opt-out. This would be a longer contract to get the best price. And I think it's still to be determined who would come in as that request for proposal might be put out by the service director. So more details to come, I think. But I just wanted to throw it out there that, again, overwhelmingly, council is in favor of the request for proposal. So
I'll add one more thing, and that's, since Brian mentioned we're kind of decided informally to go to every other year spring cleanup. If some sort of rubbish collection could be part of this too, that would be an interesting way to save city costs by having a spring cleanup, or we could have year-round cleanup in a sense. So investigate that as adding that component to the RFP, and I think we've got a pretty good package.
I think that's a great idea, Rob. Because we struggle every other year with trying to find someone to handle that contract. So if it could be included, someone might be more willing to do it.
I agree.
Yeah, and we're kind of up against the wall. So I feel like no matter what we're going to do, we're not going to make everybody happy with this decision. So I think that's just a fact of this, but a decision needs to be made. And if it's council doing it, I think we should go out for at least put a request for proposal out there to see what other prices we can get. So
I think we owe it to the residents to explore, to do the RFPs, to see what the best pricing that we could get for the residents before we would make any decisions.
And if I could just add, Julie, I had her again reach out to some of the companies, and it's looking like the only two that probably will be able to, maybe three that will be able to respond to an RFP will be Waste Management and Kimball. And I apologize, I can't remember the third one, but Conrad's cannot, they just don't have the equipment. And I've heard from pretty reliable sources that Republic doesn't separate their trash and recycling. It all goes to the landfill. So that's something, just wanted to throw that out there to you.
I think as the information comes in, and it'll probably come in quickly, we'll get that to council so we can make a decision here soon. But if there's no other discussion, then that is it for committee of the whole. So we will move on to our special city council meeting. So at, what time is it? 7:36, I will call to order the special city council meeting for June 18th. Mind reading the roll?
You are hereby notified that a special meeting of the Ravenna City Council has been called for Monday, June 21st, 2021, immediately following the committee of the whole meeting at 7 p.m. The purpose of the meeting is to discuss and/or act upon ordinance 2021-056, to amend ordinance 2016-0888, and ordinance 2021-057 to approve contracts for the Hillcrest, Zeta, and Spruce Street Water Line project.
All right, thanks, Chelsea. And do you want to call the roll of, I'm sorry, that was the call, so the roll.
Ms. Michael?
Yes.
Ms.
Yes.
West?
Here.
Ms. Wood?
Here.
Mr. Moskin?
Yes.
Mr. Karas?
Here.
Mr. Harper? Mr. Kelpie?
Here.
All right, so the first item on the agenda is ordinance number 2021-56.
An ordinance to amend ordinance 2016-088, implementing sections 3735.65 through 3735.70 of the Ohio Revised Codes to amend and clarify the City of Ravenna's provision of abatements for the construction and remodeling of residential, commercial, or industrial structures and declaring an emergency.
And this is sponsored by Community and Economic Development. Ms. Wood, is there anything you'd like to add to
We
this?
discussed this pretty extensively, and this is to change the title to CRA 1 and expand it to include a proposed mixed-use property at Spruce and Sycamore for an economic development project. There will be a CRA 2, which will encompass the rest of the city at a later time.
All right. Is there any other questions related to this? If not, do we have a motion to waive the 3 separate readings?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Kelpie?
Yes.
Ms. Michael?
Yes.
Ms. West?
Yes.
Mr. Moskin?
Yes.
Mr. Karas?
Yes.
Ms. Wood?
Yes.
And do we have a motion to adopt the emergency clause?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Karas?
Yes.
Mr. Moskin?
Yes.
Mr. Kelpie?
Yes.
Ms. West?
Yes.
Ms. Michael?
Yes.
Ms. Wood?
Yes.
And a motion to pass the ordinance.
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Michael?
Yes.
Ms. West?
Yes.
Mr. Kelpie?
Yes.
Mr. Moskin?
Yes.
Mr. Karas?
Yes.
Ms. Wood?
Yes.
All right, that ordinance is adopted. The next item on the agenda is ordinance number 2021-57.
An ordinance authorizing the mayor upon the approval of the Ohio Public Works Commission OPWC grant in the sum of $236,900 and a loan of $50,000 to enter into the necessary contracts, including the contract with Utility Contracting Incorporated for the Hillcrest, Zeta, and Spruce Waterline Project Contract CG11Y/CG12Y and declaring an emergency.
All right, and this is sponsored by Utilities. Bob or Paul, is there anything you'd like to add?
There's nothing else I would like to add other than what I'd explained earlier. unless Mr. Finney has something else in the meantime.
Nope, you did a good job, Paul.
Thank you.
All right, well, if there's no other questions, do we have a motion to waive the 3 separate readings?
So moved.
Second,
Mr. Calfee,
Yes.
Mr. Karas,
yes.
Ms. Wood,
Yes.
Ms. West,
yes,
Mr. Moskin,
Yes.
Ms. Michael.
Yes.
And do we have a motion to adopt the emergency clause?
So moved.
second,
Ms. Michael,
Yes.
Mr. Moskin,
Yes.
Mr. Kelfie,
Yes.
Ms. West,
yes,
Mr. Karas,
Yes,
Ms. Wood.
Yes.
And do we have a motion to pass the ordinance?
So moved.
second,
Ms. Wood,
Yes.
Mr. Karas,
yes.
Mr. Kelfie,
Yes.
Ms. West,
yes.
Mr. Moskin,
Yes.
Ms. Michael.
Yes.
All right, and that is everything for the special meeting. So that's our final Zoom. We'll see you in 2 weeks for the in-person meeting.